Look guys, they're not that complicated. Even I as King Shill can only shill these so much. They call it a welding electrode holder. You know what it does? You guys are never gonna believe this. It holds welding electrode. You put the fucking electrodes in the... Oh, isn't that brilliant? Oh, it's everything I hoped for and more. This is what I got, you guys. This is today's short and simple review. Alright guys, so today I want to talk briefly about some surprisingly cheap and effective ways to store stick electrodes. If you haven't done this already, you need to learn to use and then use almost exclusively 7018. That's what goes on in the welding industry for serious purposes. It's way better mechanical properties than your Farmer Fred style 6013s or whatever. Those break really easily. So we're going to talk primarily about, there you go, doing this while I was trying to look through the camera. We're going to talk primarily about storing 7018s. Now, this is not talking about code quality welds. If that's what you're doing, you're going to have like a proper electrode storage oven, what people often just call a rod oven. That's going to cost a lot of money, and if you're watching this video, you're probably not involved in that type of thing. This content is more for the greatest fabric cobbler on the entire internet, you. All right, so first off, let me tell you what not to do. Now we're gonna use 6010s for this. This is not the perfect example. This is low budget operation. Okay, here's what not to do. You don't wanna get one of these rectangular tubes from the farm store or wherever and then just leave it open. Now, since these are 6010s, they're not nearly as moisture sensitive, so that actually would be okay for at least a while. But unfortunately, due to my unwillingness to buy some of these cheap tubes, I had to throw away a lot of what was otherwise nice and very expensive premium 6010 a while back, because after it sat out for a few years, even that got ruined by moisture. Okay, so the worst thing you can do is have electrodes just sitting in the open, if for no other reason than it looks really bad. If I go into somebody's work area and they say, yeah, I do a little bit of welding here and there, if I see actual proper tubes or some other type of storage solution for electrodes, I'm like, okay, you know, this guy is probably somewhat serious about this. It looks like he has his ducks in a row. If you go over to someone's work area and it looks like mine used to, it's just a bunch of boxes everywhere, and even worse if they're like cardboard boxes, it looks really, really bad. I know it's not all about looks, but if you actually store these things in a competent manner, you will look a lot more professional. If you have some kind of business where you're not really welding primarily, but you do some welding, it's probably worth buying a few of these just for that reason. This is the, if not professional, professioneer solution, and they're surprisingly cheap. First off, I'm going to show you this one. This is rebranded by a specific welding equipment company that's very well known, and I think it's pretty much identical to this one here that costs a very small amount of money. This thing was like 20 or 30 bucks. I've seen them at welding supply stores. They are surprisingly expensive. But the elites don't want you to know this. You can get basically the same thing on Amazon, affiliate links below, for like a fraction as much. Now, I don't know if anyone actually pays 20, 30 bucks for these. I've just seen them listed for that. I don't know if it's a deal where you get there and the guy behind the counter's like, hey, Sonny, if you buy 6 trillion of those, I could get you a better deal. I don't know, but I've seen them listed for that. Now, I want to show you guys this. This is what you want. This is a proper O-ring seal. This is a real O-ring. This one doesn't look that great because this container is like 8 years old approximately, and I've never changed it. I actually potentially should. But you can see on the El Cheapo version, it's the same thing. The O-ring's in a different place. I don't know if that's supposed to be there. I don't know. Anyway, it's here. They both have an O-ring. That's what you want. I had a welding electrode storage tube that did not use the O-ring system. I haven't seen these in a while, but there used to be a lot of cheaper, crappier ones going around. You saw them on the internet. And instead of an O-ring, they had a felt seal, like some just janky foam. I don't know why. I mean, O-rings are not expensive at all. I know in like hydraulic systems and stuff, they're usually one of the cheapest parts you can get. I can't imagine foregoing this for janky foam saved any real amount of money, but I don't know, I'm not the one who made that decision. That's just how it was. The foam seals dry out and fall apart, and they are just terrible. You want an actual O-ring seal. Now, oh, I forgot that's attached. Check it out. This is, I don't know much about plastic. I'm not AV, okay? It flexes. It's not the greatest plastic ever. But you know what? It feels exactly the same as the expensive rebranded one. I don't know if these are, okay, they're not 100% identical. The O-ring placement is a little different, but, oh wow, look at that. I mean, I'm telling you guys, they're very similar. Okay, now we're gonna get this one out of here, because you guys probably aren't gonna buy this. You guys are like me. You want the El Cheapo ones off the internet. All right, so here's what I did. I realized I had a shortage of these electrode tubes, so I was just gonna stock up. I bought a 4-pack and an 8-pack of these things. This one's out of the 4-pack, all right? It's got the little strap, it's got the... Come on, what are you doing? Don't make me look like a moron. Look at that, it's got the little retainer. I don't know if that's worth paying for, but it wasn't that much more than this one, which is out of an 8-pack, and these cost a little less per unit. This one obviously doesn't have the strap. It is a slightly different design. These are not gonna mix and match, I can tell that right now. Right? Yeah, okay, yeah, that's definitely not gonna work. But they each have their own advantages. Now, the ones out of the 4-pack are a little better. The plastic does feel a little less jank. The design is better. It has larger flat surfaces, so it's not as likely to roll off. Okay, but I think they're both fine. They're both supposed to hold approximately 10 pounds of electrodes, and they're both way better than nothing, and they both have the O-ring seal, which is important, and they're both affordable. We're gonna see what we can put in this thing. See, this right here is the problem. I have so many electrodes, they're just, even with the rod oven, I have this sitting out here. This is how you lose money, because these are not cheap. And they're dying a slow death, because up until recently, I did not have enough of these tubes. Okay, check it out. Comparing these two, here's what I will say. Here's about the only other thing I will talk about. If these are what I think they are, probably not that one. I ended up with some shorter, yeah, I think they're these ones. I ended up with some shorter 7018s. They're like yeah, that's exactly it. They're like 2 inches shorter than the standard size. Long story, I got these to try them. They're not the best for this specific tube because due to its square shape, these kind of fall down in here. If you're not using standard sized electrodes, you probably want these cheaper ones. Yeah, if you're not using standard sized electrodes, you probably want these cheaper ones because they're a lot more round. They don't have that area they can fall into. These are just like for practice. They're mixed matched, a little bit of everything. But other than that, I don't think there's really that many differences between them. Here's what I'm saying though. With how cheap these things are, at least for right now, if you buy them in bulk, so does, I don't know, 4 and 8 at a time really counts as in bulk, but if you buy them more than one at a time on the internet, they're surprisingly cheap. These will most likely pay for themselves. Hey, King Shill, I get that, all right, but this is unironically true. This is, you know what happens if you don't have these things? All right, I actually have a better example to show you guys than what I was reaching for right here. I forgot about these electrodes in storage, as you can see. And this is probably about the worst moisture contamination of flux I think I've ever seen. This is the reality of what happens when you try to save money on storage. Right, I didn't want to spend the comparatively much smaller amount of money on these electrode holders, which last for years. That red one is, what did I even say, like 7 or 8 years old or something. They last for years, but instead of paying the smaller amount of money for that, I now have to throw out like $30 worth of stick electrodes. These things are so contaminated, like the flux just falls off. You can't even use these for practice. This is a great example. Not buying these is an example of how so-called saving money is very often the most expensive way to do things. Especially with inflation and so forth, you can't be wasting things like this. Oh yeah, especially that one falling apart there. Oh, that's kind of nasty, isn't it? I should have gotten this squared away years ago. The reason why I didn't is because when I started welding back in the day, I was basically broke. So I just saw these things for full retail price, and I was like, that's gonna be $20, $30 a pop. I don't have money for that. And I guess I got used to not having proper electrode storage. But as cheap as these are, at least for right now, with trade war craziness, it might be different later, but right now they're attainable. They do not cost that much money. They're worth it for organization. They make everything look so much nicer and so much more neat and so much more professional. And you don't have to worry about these electrodes. Were fine when I last used the ones in this box 6 months ago, and they've been in the shed open for 6 months, and now they don't run correctly and the flux is all damaged from humidity. You don't have to worry about that nearly as much. And yeah, look at this. I'm not larping. I bought the fucking look at this. 1/8 inch 60. You guys are not gonna believe what's in there. You guys are not gonna believe this. Oh, fucking 6011s. What does this say? Yeah, it's okay. Well, all right. All right. Well, I might edit that out. We had It's just me opening Electrode. Why did I even film this? How many of these did I even open on? Okay, we've seen enough. We've seen enough. We're gonna fast forward. Review of the day. I hope you guys have enjoyed it. Right, links in the description. Thank you for watching.